All right, so next we're going to kind of skip a line and jot down some strategies for converting from a fraction to a decimal. Going from a decimal to a fraction is pretty straightforward as long as you know your place values and you can simplify. But fractions to a decimal are always going to be the ones that give us a little difficulty without having the calculator. So the first thing that you want to do is, if it is kind of a common or a denominator that you see frequently, you want to apply the rules that we discovered, or memorize common fractions. By common fractions, I mean fractions that you see frequently. For example, you guys know when we just solved this on the other side, 1/2 is 0.5. You might know 3/4 is 0.75, and we talked about how money as well can kind of help you think with anything that has a denominator of 4. Repeating decimals are if you have like 1/3 is a repeating decimal that you might see frequently. 0.3 repeating. If you ninths is another one. If you have 1/9, whatever is the numerator is the repeating decimal. So anything like that. Fifths is another one that's kind of common. So in anything that you can memorize that you see frequently or has a rule, you want to do that first. Okay. Second, you want to see if, or check if the fraction can be simplified. Okay, so if you can simplify a fraction to one that is common, so see if it can be simplified to a fraction you already know, then you can save yourself the trouble of having to long divide. So check if the fraction can be simplified to a fraction you know. For example, eighths, it's harder to keep a rule or memorize your eighths, but if I have something like 6/8, I know that that would simplify to 3/4, which I already know I wrote up top here is 0.75. So if you have a fraction that can be simplified to one you already know, you can save yourself a little bit of trouble. Finally, if you don't have any rules that you can use for that denominator, or at least not that you remember, it's not one you've memorized, and it can't be simplified to something else, then you will have to use your long division. But there are other things you can do first. The two strategies I listed above it did not involve long division. And when you are using long division, there are some things you have to remember. So remember, you will likely, unless it's an improper fraction, need to add a decimal and 0 to the number in the house in order to make it work. And we do not deal with remainders when we are working with decimals. So no remainder. You would keep going or go until you get a 0 when you subtract as you're solving, or until you reach the thousandths place. Oops, slide this over so you can see. So you're going to have to add a decimal and a 0 to the number in the house in order to make this work. We're not going to have a remainder. You would keep dividing or go until you get a 0 when you subtract or until you reach the thousandths place.